Hey everyone, this is Professor Jackson, and today we're going to talk about the different parts of the digestive tract that are going to be part of Lab Exam 3 for Bio 202. Now, the first section of the digestive anatomy is actually going to be on an image that I provide from the textbook. That's simply because we can't actually see the parotid gland very well on any of the anatomic models we have in the lab. We've already identified the oropharynx and the esophagus before in the sinus model. But instead we're going to look at all three of these in the context of that particular figure. And you can find that figure on Blackboard. For the remainder of the digestive anatomy, we're actually going to look in two places. We're going to look on human on that model, as well as a cutout of the liver. We can see all these features on human's liver, but we have a nice little liver model that has a few more of the ligaments and several features highlighted a little bit better. All right, so let's start off with looking at Hugh. Okay, obviously Hugh's digestive tract is going to be deep to most of what we see. We can see some of the major organs like the liver, the stomach, the small and large intestines, and the mesenteries, but we're going to pull these off and look at each individual organ as we need to. So let's take off the lungs. Let's take off the heart. Go ahead and pull out the liver. This is the stomach, the pancreas, and the intestines. So let's go ahead and start at the top. I'm going to leave the liver out. Let's go ahead and start at the top of the digestive anatomy. All right. So first we have the esophagus. Okay. It's going to be deep to what we see here. So this is the esophagus. And as you can see, the esophagus crosses the diaphragm right here, and it's going to connect in with the stomach. Now on your lab sheet, we call this very first sphincter muscle here. This is called the lower esophageal sphincter. Another name for that is the gastroesophageal sphincter, so gastrostomach esophageal sphincter. We also sometimes call that the cardiac sphincter. All right, any of those names would be correct for the lab test. So that's the sphincter muscle there. This is the stomach, and on the other side, the distal side of the stomach, or perhaps more accurately the inferior side of the stomach, we have another sphincter right here. Okay. And this is the pyloric sphincter. If we pull off the stomach and discuss the different parts of the stomach, the dome shape of the stomach is going to be called the fundus. Okay, the first region of the stomach is the cardiac region, or the cardia. So the fundus is the dome itself. This area is the cardia, or the cardiac region. This is the body, in the middle portion of the stomach. And then as we're going more inferior downstream, we have the pylorus or pyloric region right before the pyloric sphincter. We can talk about the lesser curvature and the greater curvature. So this is the lesser little J curvature. This is the greater curvature of the stomach. And then we can open up the stomach and actually see the rugae. So this model does open. Let's pop it open right like that. We can see those sphincters. So again, the cardiac sphincter, the gastroesophageal sphincter, or the lower esophageal sphincter, and then here the pyloric sphincter. The rugae are all these ridges that we see inside. Again, this is the fundus, the cardiac region, the body, the pyloric region, the pylorus, that lesser curvature right here, that greater curvature out here. So the stomach sits between the small intestine, which starts here, and the esophagus. So we'll talk about the intestines in just a minute. So sitting behind all of this, we have the pancreas right here. And in front of that, and on top of where the stomach goes, we have the liver. And you can see the cutout where the stomach goes right here. All right? So let's talk about the parts of the liver. So this is the liver, this whole section. You can see Hugh's liver here on the right, and this little liver model are almost identical. So if we focus on this separate liver model, we'll notice that we have 4 actual lobes, okay? And if you think about it, it sits like this on Hugh, okay? So where my thumb is here, this is the right lobe, and this is the left lobe. We can turn it around. And now this is the right lobe. This is the left lobe, all right? And then you can see marked with numbers 15 and 14. All right, we can see this best on the posterior, sort of the inferior posterior side. Number 15 at the top, this long skinny, is the caudate lobe. And then down here by the gallbladder is the quadrate lobe, number 14. We can see the gallbladder, which is this green section. Remember, the gallbladder is just essentially a holding tank. That's why we use the term bladder. It stores up bile that's created by the liver, by the hepatocytes. So this is the number 20 here, the gallbladder. Number 19 is the duct that carries bile in and out of the gallbladder from the liver. And we call that the cystic duct. And then number 18 refers to the general ductwork going either into the liver here on the left side or going out on the right towards the pancreas, where we'll have the pancreatic juices and the bile come together to come into the duodenum at the top of the small intestine. So on either side of number 18, on the left side where we have this little bifurcation, these two sections going back into the liver, towards the liver, we're going to have the common hepatic duct. So it's common and it's going back in towards the hepatocytes, towards the liver. And then on the right side, this one single tube, that's going to be working its way back towards the duodenum. And so that's going to be called the common bile duct. So cystic duct, number 19. On the left here is the common hepatic duct. On the right is the common bile duct. Okay? This whole area is called the hilum, where all these duct works and the various veins and arteries all come into the liver. And then we have some ligaments we can talk about. So actually on this liver you can't tell, but very often there's actually a ligament that kind of sticks down, protrudes down about where my thumb is. So we're looking on the inferior portion, the posterior inferior portion, and we can actually see what amounts to the round ligament, or essentially the round ligament. Your book sometimes uses the Latin name for that. And then on the front, this ligament that we see right here is called the falciform ligament. So falciform on the front. The round ligament, sometimes you can see on the models in the book, would actually hang down. You can see it from the front here. And then this is the round ligament on the inferior posterior side. Working our way back to Hugh, okay, the liver was here, the stomach was here. This is the pancreas. And then working our way down, this first section of the small intestine, so this is the small intestine, and this kind of pinky peach area here is the small intestine. We'll go ahead and pull off the intestine model so we can see below the pancreas here. This is the duodenum. This is the first region of the small intestine, this big C curvature, duodenum. All right. We can tell right in this area here is actually where we're going to have the pancreatic juices as well as the bile coming into the duodenum. From the duodenum, we can work our way down in through the small intestine. So if we look, we really can't tell on this model very well because of some of the connective tissue that's shown. But the duodenum will connect in here to the top portion of this pink area. So you can't really see a difference on this model, but this is kind of one region. This is the other region. So the top is the duodenum. Then this next region is the jejunum. And then this is the ileum, the three regions of the small intestine. The small intestine is going to connect into the large intestine. And so we can see the ileocecal junction or ileocecal valve is basically right here, right where my pen's pointing in that circle. And so that's the connection of the ileum to what we call the cecum, this open region right here. At the bottom is the cecum, the beginning of the large intestine. So the large intestine will be all the gray colored tissue going over on the sides. So when we talk about this area, we call it the colon. So we have the ascending colon, the transverse colon going across, and then the descending colon. And if we flip around to the back, all right, a posterior view, again we have this is where we start with the, on this side right here, where we're going to start with the ascending colon going up, and then this is the descending colon that's going to go towards the sigmoid colon. If you look on the back of the ascending colon, where we first start with the colon, we see this little hook-shaped organ. That's the appendix. Okay, that's an important part of the immune system, and it also houses a lot of bacteria that are important for the intestinal gut. And as we work our way back around the ascending, transverse, descending colon, okay? The descending colon is going to fit right here, go down, work its way down to what we call the sigmoid colon. And that's this region right here. It forms kind of an S shape. And then finally the rectum at the bottom right here. Okay? And then at the end of the rectum, we can't see on this Hugh model, will actually be the anus. So this sits just posterior to the bladder. Here's the bladder, there's the rectum. All right? And then we have one more feature that we can find on the intestines, and that is actually the greater omentum. So remember, the omentum is the connective tissue that's going to help hold all these organs together. So all this yellowish area that sits on top of, or more superficial, superficial to the small intestine and large intestine, this yellow area, that's the greater omentum. On Hugh, we cannot actually see the lesser omentum because that'll connect between the liver and the stomach, and those are both pieces of the model that we pull out. And that concludes all of the digestive anatomy on the Hugh-Man model.